And it's been 17 days since former Des Moines Superintendent Ian Roberts was detained by ICE. And today, we continue to learn more details surrounding his background. A canceled Des Moines School Board meeting from September 2023 shows Roberts called to approve a $116,000 to the Meritism Group and Lively Paradox for professional development. Local 5's Emma Strunner joins us in studio to explain what Lively Paradox is and why Roberts recommended it for leadership coaching. Emma?
Well, Larissa, the Associated Press says Roberts indicated on his resume he was an executive leadership coach at Lively Paradox. And Des Moines Public Schools tells Local 5 this information is accurate, adding, quote, there appears to be a pattern of Ian Roberts having Lively Paradox do business with the districts and organizations he also worked for. AP says Roberts was told this funding to Lively Paradox would be a conflict of interest. Then he canceled that special meeting. When I visited the Lively Paradox website, I noticed several books with Roberts as an author, with titles such as The Power of 7-Second Chances and Radical Empathy. One of these books was co-authored by Dr. Nicole Price, the founder of Lively Paradox. Some remnants of Roberts and Lively Paradox seem to have disappeared from the internet. A post by Roberts on LinkedIn with the hashtag Radical Empathy can't be found, and neither can his entire LinkedIn profile. A search for Lively Paradox's Our Team page includes an abstract describing Roberts, but when I go to the page, his profile is wiped. One post does remain, however. That's a LinkedIn post by Price from 1 week ago. She writes the two have worked together for years, and Lively Paradox is proud to have partnered with Roberts. One comment on the post is from Roberts' wife, thanking Price for her words. With Roberts' close affiliation to the company, Associated Press says Price hired clients and gave leadership training in states Roberts worked at before DMPS, getting payments from schools that employed him, including Mill Creek Township School District.
Mr. O'Toole, for the Paradox, which was Nicole Price, didn't she come in for an in-service presentation?
Correct. There was a payment just under $1,800 that related to the Myers-Briggs personal testing.
The premise of Lively Paradox, according to their website, is to foster leadership skills through trust and accountability. Local 5's interview with Roberts in 2023 shows leadership was also a priority of his.
When students are taught, exposed to leadership, or when they're learning from individuals who share many of their identities, they succeed, they exceed expectations.
The Associated Press found the Des Moines Public Schools District did pay Lively Paradox $6,476 for Price's work and travel for a school board retreat. Larissa?
Well, tomorrow marks 2 weeks since the federal government shut down after missing its funding deadline. Local 5's J.D. Snover reports on the effects seen so far and what could happen if the shutdown continues.
That's right, Stephanie. A political science professor at the University of Iowa describes the situation in Washington, D.C. as a 2-week stalemate. But he believes that that could shift if the shutdown's consequences become more widespread.
It's still just kind of a wait and see at this point.
2 weeks into the federal government's partial shutdown, questions remain about its broader impact. But as effects begin to surface, University of Iowa political science professor Tim Hagel says urgency may start to build.
And right now, I don't think anybody, except for obviously some individuals that maybe aren't getting paid and so forth, are feeling the pain in large enough ways to force one party or the other to back down.
Iowa employs just under 18,000 federal workers. That's about 1.1% of the state's workforce, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But the impact could start to extend beyond federal employees. A report from Food and Water Watch shows nearly 1 in 4 children under the age of 5 in Iowa rely on food and nutrition assistance programs, some of which are at risk of running out of funding. One main cause of the shutdown is the Democrats' concern on health care programs, which Republicans call subsidies for illegal immigrants.
But if all of a sudden other people who are here legally and are basically, because of the criteria, entitled to these programs or this assistance, then that's going to be more of a problem for Republicans.
The shutdown stems from the Senate's failure to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government funded while negotiations continue. And with each passing day, the pressure to reach a deal grows.
If the Republicans were to say, okay, look, if you folks, being the Democrats, will at least pass a continuing resolution, we will agree to negotiate the points you want to negotiate. Maybe that would be enough to get to enough Democrats to switch over, that then they would have that time to negotiate. But if the negotiations are going to take a long time, we could be in a situation of having to face another continuing resolution.
Now, the Senate is not meeting today for a vote, but will be back tomorrow. Last time, 2 Democrats and an independent who meets with Democrats voted for the measure, meaning Republicans still need to convince about 5 more opponents to reach the 60 votes they need. It remains unclear if they're close to striking that deal, though. Stephanie?
Well, after over 2 years held in captivity, the last of the living Israeli hostages held by Hamas are free. Israel says roughly 250 people were taken during the October 7th attacks, and 48 are being turned over to Israel from Hamas, 28 of whom are deceased. Israel will now release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners who will return to Gaza. Here at home, the news of the ceasefire and hostage deal is promising for Jewish and Palestinian people in Iowa. Local 5's Alex Fulton has reaction from both sides of the aisle. Alex, what are they telling you tonight?
Well, Stephanie, members of the Jewish and Palestinian communities tell me they're happy to hear of the conflict seemingly coming to a close. But the two sides say more needs to happen before true peace can be reached. Yoni Diller is a survivor of the October 7th, 2023 massacre at the Nova Music Festival. He was a guest speaker at a banquet hosted by Iowans supporting Israel on Sunday.
We saw a girl approaching with her car, super afraid. And basically, as she got closer, I saw that her car is full of bullets. It's holed with bullets. And she was injured on her left knee.
He called Monday a happy day after Hamas released 20 living hostages, many of whom were at Nova.
There's a lot of hope. I think it's a new era in the Middle East, especially when we managed to erase Iran's nuclear facilities not too long ago, this year.
Diller says peace won't come until Hamas is no longer in control of Gaza.
The minute we have Hamas out, which will take time, we can talk about peace, because we cannot have peace with these monsters.
Yasser Abu Dago now lives in Coralville but grew up in Israel's occupation of Gaza. He says there were times he was scared for his own safety.
I have lost a lot of friends that they have either been killed by a bullet or hit by a canister or a gas canister.
He believes the ceasefire and hostage deal is the first step towards Palestinians having equal rights and getting complete justice.
The people are happy in Gaza. I've been talking to some of the friends in Gaza and the family.
Abu Dago called on President Trump to put pressure on Israel to keep its promise and stop providing aid to the country.
We, taxpayer, have provided Israel more than $22 billion worth of weapons. So if there's no significant shift on the foreign policy here, Israel will have no intention and no reason to end the domination of the Palestinian people.
Now, both sides agree that the potential for lasting peace in the Middle East is there, but it will take some time. Stephanie.
Alex, thank you. In the last hour, State Auditor Rob Sand confirmed his office has received a formal request to re-audit Des Moines Public Schools. DMPS officials requested the investigation in light of the Ian Roberts scandal. Local 5's Alex Fulton explains what an audit of Iowa's largest school district could look like.
We are here today to set the record straight after 3 state senators sent a letter with a request.
At a news conference on Tuesday, State Auditor Rob Sand responded to a letter calling for him to audit Des Moines Public Schools. The letter, signed by 3 Republican state senators, asks Sand to ensure all of the taxpayer money the district receives is going where it's supposed to. The calls came just a day before a report from the AP found Dr. Ian Roberts called to approve $116,000 in contracts for Lively Paradox. That professional development firm employed Roberts as a consultant and speaker.
After reading those reports, we have concerns. We are already conducting 2 other reviews of spending by superintendents in other districts in the state.
Sand said Tuesday morning he is not able to legally conduct an audit into DMPS at this point.
When someone local makes the request, it has to be from an elected official of that entity, an employee of that entity, or a petition with 100 signatures on it from people who live in the jurisdiction of that entity.
Sand pointed out that the state senators did not call for an investigation into the Board of Educational Examiners, which granted Roberts his teaching license.
They either knew that that request was something I couldn't fulfill legally and knew they were inviting me to break the law, or they were just totally ignorant of the law.
In a statement in response to Sand's remarks, State Senator Jesse Green said Iowa Code states the auditor's office can request an investigation into any governmental subdivision under one condition. That's if the auditor has reason to believe it would be in the public interest because of a material deficiency in a previous audit. Green wrote in his statement, quote, "As legislators, we are permitted to ask the auditor to look into a situation where there are concerns arising, such as the one we are currently facing with the Des Moines Public Schools." From the state capitol, Alex Fulton, Local 5 News.
Well, a new chapter is beginning in Perry with the start of construction on a JBS USA sausage plant. Local 5's JD Snover has more on how the project is being received by the community as ground is broken.
Over the course of the next year, this empty lot behind me will transform into a JBS USA sausage plant. It's expected to bring a boost to Iowa's pork economy as well as bring 500 jobs to a community that's been hurting since one of its top employers left last year.
Today is a turning point, and today we plant the first stake in a sustainable future full of promise.
Nearly a year and a half after Tyson Foods, one of Perry's top employers, shut down operations in the community, hope is rising again from the ground up.
This community, from Perry Strong to Perry Next, has really shown the heart of what this community is all about. You pulled together, you've kept working, you kept believing that something good could come.
The $135 million plant is being built with a mix of public and private funding. JBS USA CEO Wesley Batista-Fillo says the decision to build from scratch was deliberate.
We decided to build a brand new plant just to really be sure that this is going to be here 100 years from now, 60 years, 70 or 5 years from now, something like that. Instead of...
Once operational, the facility is expected to produce 130 million pounds of pork annually while processing roughly 500,000 sows a year and bringing a slice of Perry to dinner tables across the country.
It means 4 million Americans are going to have a diet based on what Iowa produces in a really healthy way.
It's not the only spot JBS USA will leave a footprint in Iowa. They're also working to open a 186,000 square foot facility in Ankeny next summer.
That facility actually is going to help this plant with demand because we're going to send sausage from here to cook out there.
On the outskirts of Perry, I'm JD Snover, Local 5 News.
The Iowa Coalition Against Domestic Violence released new data regarding domestic violence homicides in the state. Local 5's Larissa Leone joins us with numbers from their findings and how other coalitions are working to help survivors.
Well, Stephanie, according to the Iowa Domestic Violence Homicide Overview, nearly 90 people have lost their lives to domestic violence between October 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2024. Now, we spoke with the Chrysalis Foundation about these alarming statistics, and they emphasize that organizations need more support to address the increasing demand for assistance. According to the Iowa Coalition of Domestic Violence most recent DV homicide analysis, between October of 2021 and September of 2024, at least 88 Iowans were killed due to domestic violence, including 16 children ages 5 and under. Taking a look at the demographic of victims, 7% were family members, 7% were ex-partners, 38% were newborn to age 5, and 50% were current partners or spouses. 67 of the deaths were women and 33% were men. Executive Director of ICADV, Dr. Maria Corona, released a statement about these findings, saying, quote, "These are not just numbers. They represent our neighbors, our coworkers, our children, lives stolen by preventable crisis. Domestic violence is too often dismissed or forgotten, but those of us doing this work every day know the truth. Ignoring it is deadly, and its impacts ripple far beyond the home. We cannot afford to look away." The report shows Iowa has seen a year-over-year increase, marking the highest levels in recent history, and a 52% increase over 3 years. Over at the Chrysalis Foundation, Deputy Director Brooke Finley says as the number of domestic violence homicides increase within the state, the aid given to local organizations helping lower these statistics have been decreasing.
What we're really lacking are resources. And so I think it's really a matter of having to sit with and recognize this really unfortunate reality and saying this is important. We do need to fund this work.
The Iowa Coalition of Domestic Violence is calling on community members and advocates, policymakers alike, to acknowledge domestic violence as a public health crisis in Iowa. Stephanie. Iowa soybean farmers are feeling frustrated because Argentina sold 2 million tons of soybeans to China. This came shortly after the Trump administration stated it would provide a $20 billion aid package to Argentina to strengthen its economy. Local 5's Alex Fulton spoke with an Iowa soybean farmer. Alex, what is he saying he and other farmers are experiencing right now?
Well, Larissa, Grant Kimberly with the Iowa Soybean Association says that farm costs continue to rise while soybean prices have gone down. That's why he hopes the trade war will soon come to a close.
There's a lot of things on the table right now.
Seemingly to get a cheap price, China purchased 2 million tons of soybeans from Argentina.
That was frustrating to see Argentina basically do something that they don't typically do. They don't typically export whole soybeans.
Grant Kimberly with the Iowa Soybean Association says China is refusing to buy from the U.S., leaving Iowa farmers in limbo.
These soybeans right now, farmers are in the middle of harvest, and so they're going to be putting a lot of these soybeans in storage, hoping that there's a trade deal.
He explained that soybean prices have gone down, meaning farmers that are selling aren't necessarily getting the best deal.
The reason why China is such an important market is because it is the largest agriculture buyer in the world. It buys 60% of the world's globally traded soybeans.
Senator Chuck Grassley told reporters there are 3 things President Trump can do right now to address the situation.
He can finalize the proposed rules to increase RVOs. Secondly, reallocate 100% of small refinery exemptions and maintain the half RINs for foreign feedstocks and fuels.
Kimberly says that China typically buys between 25 to 35 million tons of U.S. soybeans, and the U.S. needs to work to rebuild that relationship.
We'd like to see a resumption of trade. We would like to see more purchases and exports of soybeans to China and the rest of the world combined.
President Trump is set to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on October 31st and November 1st. In the meantime, the Iowa Soybean Association is having conversations with Iowa's delegation to call for resuming soybean exports to China. Larissa?
The family of an Ankeny woman is calling for action after she was killed in an accident. 44-year-old Courtney Peterson was crossing the street on the High Trestle Trail using a hand cycle when a dump truck hit her last Thursday morning. Local 5's Emma Stroner spoke with her husband and sister about how they're working to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else.
On the morning of October 9th, Courtney Peterson's family received the words they never thought they would hear.
So I looked at him, I said, "Is she dead?" And he goes, "Unfortunately, yes."
A veteran paralyzed from the waist down, Peterson was crossing Northwest 44th Street on the High Trestle Trail on a hand cycle when a dump truck drove through and hit her.
That's when my life ended.
Her husband, Brad Peterson, says the accident could have been avoided due to the intersection's lack of crossing lights, high speed limit, and crests on both sides.
I don't know the details of anything, but this was 100% preventable.
The community quickly responded after they heard about Peterson. Brad says people have reached out with a mix of support and advocacy.
It's hard to read the Facebook posts that my family and all our friends and how many lives that you touched. I got so many friends and family members that are reaching out to make this happen. So I'm very appreciative to everyone who takes this and tries to talk to the right people to get this fixed, because I don't have the energy to do that right now.
Together, Peterson's family, friends, and fellow cyclists are urging for change.
There's just so much more traffic coming on that road. It really is time to do something different there. We've got to design it properly so that folks, both the cars and the cyclists and pedestrians, can be safe at an intersection.
Why does it have to take this to get something fixed?
While there hasn't been any other fatalities in the past 10 years, there have been close calls.
I'm one of the safest cyclists on the trail, and I stop and I look both ways, and the minute I get my tire on that asphalt, there's a car.
Peterson's family has launched a petition for a safer intersection. It now has 272 signatures. The petition is calling on Senators Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley. We reached out to both of their offices and have not yet heard back. In Des Moines, Emma Stroner, Local 5 News.
More Iowa communities are coming forward saying a Des Moines man secretly recorded minors in porta potties without consent. We start in Des Moines, where police allege he did this at the Harvest and Handmade Festival on October 4th. Tyler Pavick is facing 7 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor and 3 counts of invasion of privacy involving nudity. Local 5's Alex Fulton joins us live from Waterworks Park, where that festival took place.
Dana, Des Moines police say there are likely 50+ victims who were spied on without their consent at the Harvest and Handmade Festival. The victims are male, female, adults, and children.
There's a lot of images on there. It's very disturbing stuff.
Officers say it was a disturbing crime using a camera similar to this one. Des Moines police say the suspect planted the device under the toilet seat in a porta potty roughly 10 minutes before the Harvest and Handmade Festival started.
It wouldn't be unusual to see someone to step into a porta potty. You know, that's what it's there for. And, you know, you have people show up at events a little early. People stay a little late.
Almost 6 hours later, police arrived at Waterworks Park shortly after someone spotted the camera and alerted event staff. Police say the suspect never retrieved the device or took it home.
When the officer got there that afternoon, they gave him the device. So the staff had pulled it out from underneath the toilet seat. They gave it to us. We locked it up in here, and then we started working on it.
Wednesday night, authorities arrested 32-year-old Tyler Pavlik at his East Village apartment. According to court documents, the videos were intended for Pavlik's sexual gratification.
One of the challenges for us right now is identifying the victims. There's some technology that we can use that can take an image of an adult's face, maybe compare it to social media, and we might get a name. That doesn't work with kids.
Investigators are asking those who attended the Harvest and Handmade Festival to reach out to police. A handful of victims have already come forward.
Can't get too far into this right now, but we're looking very strongly at some indicators that this might not be the only time that he has done this. So we're trying to work through that evidence right now.
Now, Des Moines police recommend people stay extra vigilant whenever they use a public restroom or dressing room. Take a look around the room to see if anything seems unusual or seems out of place. Reporting live in Des Moines, Alex Fulton, Local 5 News.
Alex, thank you. And this is not just happening in Des Moines. More victims are coming forward. The week before the incident at Waterworks Park, the Marshall County Sheriff's Office claims Pavlik hid another camera at a cross-country meet. On September 23rd, deputies were called to Lincoln Valley Golf Course. At the time, the West Marshall Community School District was hosting a cross-country meet with several school districts, including middle and high school students. Participants reported to police what they believe was a camera in a porta potty. The sheriff's office says it will issue additional arrest warrants out of Marshall County for Pavlik. A report by Moody Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi finds 22 states, including Iowa, are at risk of a recession. Local 5's Emma Stroner joins us to explain Iowa's current economic status and what concerns our state leaders have. Emma.
Well, Dana, our state's economy has been an ongoing conversation, and state leaders have differing beliefs about Iowa's true economic standing. One expert says it's more nuanced than the numbers we're seeing. Iowa is among nearly half of the country when it comes to states at high risk of recession. Ben Murray, the director of policy and research for nonpartisan organization Common Sense Institute Iowa, says this indicates a large scale of impact.
The U.S. economy is just slowing down, and we're seeing that particularly in the jobs numbers, right? The Fed just lowered interest rates. They pointed to the jobs numbers, weakening jobs market in the U.S.
Still, factors unique to Iowa could be contributing.
In years like the past several years, when manufacturing is underperforming the broader economy, that's going to drag Iowa down.
Iowa's manufacturing industry, along with other areas, are on the forefront for our state's officials.
Disruptions to global markets, variability of crop yields across the state, and lower commodity prices are creating tough marketing decisions for farmers and increasing the strain on Iowa's agriculture and manufacturing sectors.
Governor Kim Reynolds speaks to those worries, saying there is a softening in our economy, but she believes a recession isn't likely.
We're strong. We're doing well. I think the revised numbers from the Bureau of Economic Analysis really underscores that fact. When they revised the 2024 numbers, they took us from last to 27th. And when we look at Q2, we actually are 18th in the country for GDP growth.
Another concern flagged by Democratic lawmakers, the 9% drop in Iowa's general fund revenue. State Auditor Rob Sand says in part, quote, "This news confirms what I've been saying for years. Our state budget has been run into the ground, and the surplus provided largely from federal funds will only steady us for a short time." However, Murray says a decline doesn't automatically signal something bad.
The reduction in revenue that we're seeing is largely intentional and frankly probably good for Iowa's economy. It's largely a result of deliberate policy decisions to return excess revenue back to taxpayers.
There's clearly a lot to take in and stay informed on. Murray says what Iowans need to take away from this is to hold on to your jobs right now.